So now in this video, we are going to be focusing on our two main characters, boy and girl, who are siblings. So this is going to be a two-part video because there's really try to keep it short to make sure it's understanding, because we got about two more videos after this, because we're going to be going into the war and then into the sacrifice. So let's start off with Boy, and we know Boy was one of the orphans, and also who partake in sacrificing Girl, his sister. So Boy was kind of hard to crack for me, because it was hard to kind of like pinpoint what his troubled past comes to, where his troubled past comes to play. But we did saw a bit of it from going into the orphanage and also being surrounded in the battlefield of the war environment at the end of the near the end of the game. So I was able to pick up pieces a bit about the boy, but he was also another interesting one though to make an analysis from. But one thing I definitely would like to touch base on is not only Boy, but also that sibling relationship between boy and girl. It seems like in the past they had possibly relied on one another, or possibly girl relies on her brother so much, because who knows which one is the oldest. I don't know which one is the oldest, but they could be twins for all I know. But it definitely has me thinking, like, with them sticking together so much, it kind of tells me that the trauma they possibly could have shared together, and also the dynamic of that unhealthy emotional dependence, because of course he did soon sacrifice her, in which I can't wait to go over in the next video. But in the game, they can die if they are apart from each other too long. When they are apart, you can see the darkness from this scene whenever boy and girl are separated, which symbolizes the fear, the trauma, and control they have with one another. Of course, we could possibly predict that the boy had so much burden he had to possibly carry while taking care of his sister. It could also have taken a toll on him because of this corruption of himself and the other characters. But of course, soon he was hanged, which also means exposure of the wrongdoing and the humiliation, which is why we see Boy lower his head down in shame when he saw his death scene. So that was a bit of analysis on Boy, for what I can pick up from the game. Now we're going to get into the girl and the connection with the sheep at the end. Well, not at the end, but at the end, but also throughout the video, where we see that sheep welling inside of her. So as we can tell by the bunny mask and white dress, girl had some sort of purity, and possibly not corrupted. She could have still possibly had some innocence. Out of all the characters, she probably would have been the only one who still had her innocence, which we did saw in the true ending, where she was in the well, and there were other previous lost innocence children that were surrounding her, cleansing her from that corruption that was bestowed upon her when she was killed by her brother and other characters. She was every bit the other characters didn't have. Now, some say the sheep that was inside her was the Antichrist, and I really, I can see that, but of course, you know me, I like to think outside the box. I like to think it from another perspective. Like, yeah, we see that throughout the game, all we see is red, which can indicate danger, evil, and redemption. But we seen red lights throughout the game, like on the light boys, hopefully I'm saying that right, that was in the water while we were in the boat, that could indicate the danger ahead. Or it also can indicate a guiding light, because red symbolizes a guidance, guiding your way, the light to that helps you guide your way. So there's not enough saying that it was antichrist and that the character was in a cult, you know because there were hints, with the pig head and the lamb being with the being dead and sacrificed, but um and in the flooding, of course, and the imagery of the sheep growing disfigurably inside of her. But of course, what some needs to realize that a sheep a sheep is symbolized as is as the inner self, that inner childhood, that inner personality, according to research I done on knowing about sheeps and their role. I possibly think that the sheep inside her was her inner childhood, that inner purity she once had. We could guess that the girl possibly follows the characters around in the past, trusting them perhaps, which is why she was easily lured into the barn shed before she was captured and tied and sacrificed. But now in the afterlife that they're in, that inner childhood within her is angry and corrupted and full of strong emotions that she wants to let out of her, because of course she was betrayed. And of course, I would be angry. I would be angry if I was sacrificed like that, if I was betrayed. And this anger within her fires back, her inner self fired back quickly, as we saw the sheep consuming the characters one by one at the end, near the end of the game. And the bigger the sheep is, the bigger her emotions were. So that's what I was getting from the sheep, and that was welling inside of her. It's just that inner self, her inner childhood, Um, so that's all for this video. Next we're gonna get into the war, because that's what I really like to talk about, because it does have a pretty good significance.